We moved in the winter of 1955 to a 440-acre farm. Mom and Dad, 4 brothers, 1 sister, and me. We grew to love it like it was our own. The old weatherboard tinted home. It was there as a boy I did ramble, barefoot down a dirt road, wild and free. I never thought I'd ever have to leave it. I thought it was for
Larry Sherman Lawson. I was born September the 6th, 1947 in Harrison County, Kentucky. Yeah, my dad was a sharecropper. We lived on other people's farms, and I had 4 brothers and a sister, and we sharecropped on a farm in Harrison County after I was born for 4 years, then Shelby County 2 years, then we moved here in 1955 on the farm that's now the Hillsboro subdivision. It was 400 acres, 440-acre farm back then. It had a lot of woods on it and a lot of cattle, sheep, and hogs, tobacco, corn, hay, all that good stuff. In January 1955. I thought it was the coldest place I ever been in my life. We didn't have any heat in the old house. It was a big old 2-story frame house, no insulation, no underpinning, no water, outdoor toilet, of course, all that. Most everybody had it like that back in those days, and it was really cold that day, and we all were gathered around a little wood stove trying to survive. So you remember stuff like that. Elk Creek area. Well, I started school here in the 2nd grade up on the hill, and we had the same teacher. Miss Gaddy was the teacher in the second. I was in the middle of the 2nd grade, and then I had her for the rest of that year. And the next year in the 3rd grade, we just moved on the other side of the room. Had 2 grades in one room back at that time. Then the next year, the 4th grade up on the hill, and then I came down under the hill and spent the rest of the time at the Taylorsville High School and graduated in 1965 at the bottom of my class. I was voted the class comic. Better than nothing. I went to Western Kentucky University, took electric guitar with me, and that was my downfall. About all I did was play music in a little rock and roll band down there. That lasted 2.5 years, and then they sent me home, so I got drafted that next summer, and then I got a real education. Yeah, we had a well in the backyard, and it was a big well about 10 feet across, and it was probably 20 feet down to the water, and we had a bucket there, and we had a rope that we would slide the top back on the well and lower the rope down in the bucket down in there on the rope and flip it to catch water and pull it up out of there. And sometimes in the winter it would have ice on it, so you know, if you went to the water bucket and it was empty, a lot of times you wouldn't even get a drink at night because you didn't want to go out there and face that icy rope and out in the cold. But that's the way we got our water, and it was like that when I left home in 1965. We never had running water all the time. We had an outdoor toilet down behind the house, and had an old dirt road back through the farm, and it was you know, what can you say? It was a nice way to grow up. It really was. Really was. Everything moved at a slow pace. And, you know, it's sort of an innocent way to grow up. Yeah, I'm not sure we see the real effects of it, but people are pretty resilient. You know, they've been through a lot, and like a war orphan, you know, how can they go through that and get on with regular life? And people do find ways to go back to living, and it's kind of been a strain on people, I think, and it's cut down on a lot of activity, socializing and stuff like that, and I think people miss seeing other people. Even funerals here have been non-existent for people, and people at the nursing home. I know for a fact out there, I think, or I've heard that people have died because their relatives couldn't come and see them, and they just quit eating. So, you know, it's took a little toll, no doubt about it. More on some people than others. There's 4 of us living in our house, and I'm the only one that hasn't ever tested positive. The other three did. They wasn't really sick, but that's in the later stages when the COVID wasn't so hard. But back when it first come out, I had 3 cousins die from it down in Lincoln County. And so, you know, it's took effect on people. It's probably affected me, you know, and everybody. But we'll get over it. I'm not doing but playing at the nursing home once a week and then in church on Sundays and to sing a song, you know. That's about it. I play the guitar for a group that plays out to the nursing home from the Baptist Church in Waterford. And we play out there from 10 o'clock till 11 every Friday. So the people seem to enjoy it, glad to see us back, you know. And I know we're glad to be back, but now it's canceled again because it's raised up again, the COVID has. So, but I hope the worst of it is over. I don't know whether people have got more immune to it or whether it's, I don't know I don't know about it. All I know is what I hear, and there, you hear conflicting things on that, you know. So we'll get over it. We'll get through it. They got through the flu in 1918. I had an uncle died from that, so we'll get over it. Yeah, I don't remember that, but I remember people were scared. We were scared of as children in the 50s, and they had the vaccines. You know, we all got a vaccine. You had yours. I got mine way back then, but yeah, it was a pretty scary thing. There's always something come along, you know, scare people, I guess. I had a lot of jobs, and I grew up a farm boy, you know, and we worked pretty hard on the farm, and then of course I went to college and got drafted after I left that, and in the Army I drove a Jeep mostly. It was my job in Vietnam, and that wasn't a bad job. Come out of there and I was a butcher for an old folks sausage company for a year. It was all right. I really loved to work. We grew up working hard, and it was just something that you did. You learn to like it when you do it a lot when you're young. And then I went into the construction business and framed houses and raised tobacco for about 10 years. And then I got into politics sort of as a joke. Had some people having a strip tobacco, and I was joking with them. They were kind of, you know, about like me, you know, poor people. And I said, I think I'm gonna run for sheriff and lock all y'all up. Well, one of them went and told a guy that was gonna run that I was gonna run for sheriff. He came to see me. He said, I heard you was gonna run for sheriff. I said, you heard what? And he said, yeah, they told me, somebody told me who told them. I said, well, that was a joke. I was just telling them, I'm not going to run for sheriff. And back then, they ran as the sheriff and the deputy. And he had ran the time before and lost by just a few votes. His name was Roy V. Ingram. And he said, well, why don't you run with me as my lead deputy? And your name will be on a card and everything, but your name won't be on the ballot. I'll be the only one on the ballot. I said, I don't think so. He said, well, think about it, and I'm going to come back. And so I talked about it with my wife, and things were getting a little slow in the building business. So I said, what do you think about it? She said, it's up to you. And I said, I think I'll try it. So we ran, and back then we'd go door to door, every house in the county. It wasn't but about 5,500 people in the county, and mostly farmers, factory workers, GE. And he'd come and get me, and we'd go every evening up till about dark. We'd go door to door, hand out cards. And a lot of people, he'd always say, my name's Roy V. Ingram. I don't know if you know me, this is Larry Lawson. We're running for sheriff and deputy. And a lot of people, me and my brothers played a lot of music around down on the square around here then. And a lot of people said, well, are you one of the boys that plays the music? I said, yeah. So anyway, I don't know if that put us over or not, but we won by about 50 votes. And back then, when you're going door to door, everybody's nice. And we were running for sheriff. We appreciate you vote. Well, yeah, okay, yeah, we always been all right. You know, we'd be, they'd being nice. And I thought we're going to get all the votes. And we were running against an incumbent deputy and another guy. They were teamed up. There were 6 teams. But we knew it was between us and them. And when they counted the votes down there that night, we won by about 40 votes. I never will forget, I looked at him, I said, we could have lost that race. And everybody making us think we're gonna win. But anyway, we won, and I was his only deputy for 4 years, and back then the sheriff had to get on out of the office. The law said he couldn't even stay on as a deputy. So I went back and ran with the guy that we had beat the time before. And his name was Melvin Humes, and I always liked him even though we were opponents. And back then politics was a lot different than it is now, because we were running against all our friends. I mean, it wasn't a bitter thing at all. And you know, we didn't say anything bad about people, or tried not to. At least I didn't. And because I thought, well, I say talk bad, we're going to win this thing in a landslide. Anyway, I went back and got him to team up with me the next year, and we won pretty big. And there was like 5 teams running that time, a sheriff and a deputy. And then the next 4 years, they changed the law while I was in the office the first time. Sheriffs were allowed to stay and succeed themselves. So I was the first sheriff of Spencer County, got to run 2 consecutive terms. Could have still been running if I could have won. And you know, I love the people, and I felt like they loved me. You know, it's something that's kind of hard to imagine unless you've actually been there and done it. But there's a lot of Spencer County was a really good-natured bunch of people. We had a few hard heads, but we never had no murders unless it was an accident. And I mean, you could, half the time in the office we didn't even wear guns. We put them in a drawer. I put mine in a drawer one day. I was packing that big gun, and I remember telling Melvin my back was starting to hurt. And I said, Melvin, I don't know about you, but the only one this gun is killing is me, and I'm gonna take it off. I put it in a drawer, and he got up and took his off, put it in the drawer too. So when we come to the office, we went around, then we didn't wear guns in the office, you know. And we'd come in every day, park a garbage can against the door, open it up, and it had all these chairs in there. And if you watch Matt Dillon, see Matt and Chester sitting out on the street, there's just like those kind of chairs was in the courthouse. I got one of them today. And the people would come up, mostly older men, they come in, file in there, sit around and tell stories all day. And some of them were true, some of them I don't know about. But it was a good time being sheriff. But time went by, and the Russians shot down a Corrigan plane in about 1987 or 86, somewhere along in there. And the President of the United States put a grain embargo on the Russians. And a lot of the farmers here had just gone into the grain business big time, and they went broke. And I had to go sell them out. So, seized all their property, serving papers on them all the time. So I went in one night, I told my wife, I said, I'm not going to be their sheriff no more. She said, what are you going to do? I said, well, I don't want to run for county judge. What they always do, so that's the only thing I can do. She said, well, you can't be Glasscock. I said, I know it, but I'm leaving the sheriff's office. And I did, and he didn't run. And so I got lucky and won that one by a small majority. And that's the way that went. Every farm was a little tobacco farm with a few cows, and they milked by hand, and the milkman come around with a truck, and he'd set these 10-gallon cans in cold water, and sometimes you had about that much milk, and he'd come along, slam them up on his truck. You got a little check. Some of them milked 30 or 40 cows. They buy with the milkers and all, and they made their living that way with a little tobacco. And then every farm had a tobacco base. You could grow so much tobacco. So that's the way the farmers made their living, and doing little odd jobs on the side for one another. And then the dairy farms started going out, and they finally all went out. There's not a dairy farm in the county now. And then the tobacco started going out. So they started buying one another's farms, and you see the bigger farms, and they got in the grain business with combines and farming off the seat of the tractors, you know. And then when the grain went busted back in that year, a lot of them had borrowed money to buy these farms and go into buy a combine and all that expensive equipment that they needed to farm a grain farm, put up grain bins and all that, and all of a sudden it wasn't worth anything, so they they lost their farms. And I mean, I grew up with them, a lot of them, and I had to go out and serve all these papers on them, you know, and seize their property. And all of a sudden, what had been a real fun job wasn't anymore. No, back in the days, that's a good question. You didn't have to have any, it didn't matter if you didn't have a high school education. In fact, the guy I run with didn't have a high school education. And I had 2 years of college. But the old county judge had called us down one day, and he said, I'm gonna order y'all 2 uniforms apiece, and a gun, a pair of handcuffs, and a winter coat, and a hat, and that's it. And here's the key to the office. And when I went the first day, somebody come running up to me and said, somebody stole my car. I had no idea what to do. So I called the state police, and we fell back on the state police a lot. I don't know what we'd done without them. And the city police. They had been in, well, the state police had the training, and the city police didn't have the training, but they had experience. And the state police helped when we hit something like that. We didn't exactly know what we should do. We'd call the state police. We were real tight with them because there was just 2 of them here and just 2 of us in the sheriff's office. So we had to work together, and we had a real good relationship with them. And but anything come up, you know, we'd call them. If we felt like we needed to back up somebody, you know, you might know somebody one day, and the next day they might be totally different. They have a fight with their wife, get drunk. All of a sudden they're a different person, and you had to handle them a little bit different. And so, but we never did. I never did try to use the stormtrooper tactics here with the people, you know, because if you here with 5,500 people, say you and me grow up together, and I know you, and you get in trouble, and I come out and rough you up. You get out of jail, I'll see you in a grocery store the next day. I'm not going to rough you up, but I'm just using you for an example, you know. So you want to treat people with respect, and they most time respected you. These days, they don't know one another as well as a small community, you know. And I think it's a loss, but they have to operate a little bit different, I guess. The numbers, for one thing, you know, you see the sheriff's department has their calendar, and a lot of times they'll have 12, 15 people on there, and back then we just had 2. And I think Melvin may have been the last. My deputy, when he was sheriff, I think was the last one, just had 1 deputy. Then the county started growing, the tax base started growing, they had to have more help. They had more money to hire more help, and all of a sudden they start getting more militaristic, I guess would be the word, I don't know, instead of, you know, like the old way. I mean, I'm not trying to make myself sound like Andy Griffith or somebody like that. It was not exactly that way, but it wasn't too far from it. Oh yeah. A lot of times, if I get called out at night, when I first went in, we didn't even have a dispatch. Nobody knew where you were. And when I'd leave home and get up and the wife and kids were sleeping, I wouldn't tell them where I was going. And sometimes I would if I thought it was going to be scared, but a lot of times my wife didn't even wake up. But we could call, sometimes we'd try to get on a hill. We operated on CB radios when we first went in there. And a lot of people around the county had CBs, would listen for you to call. And you could go back up top of the hill and say, I need a wrecker out here. And they'd send you a wrecker or an ambulance or something like that. And it was a lot different back then. And, but yeah, you have times when you're fearful. Anytime you're a small county sheriff, you get a little scared sometimes. I don't know whether they're doing it now. It's a kind of a thing. It's kind of like people don't really know what's going on except the people that's doing it, because they keep it kind of quiet because it's illegal. But like when I was went in the sheriff's office in 1978, we were electioneering around, and every once in a while somebody'd say, what are y'all going to do about this marijuana? What marijuana? I didn't know nothing about any marijuana. I thought somebody smoked. I said, well, if somebody smokes a joint up and they come up in front of us, or if they got marijuana, we'll have to do what the law says. Well, spring came around, summer came in 78, and I was sitting at home one day, and this guy comes up to my drive, and he had an ongoing feud with his neighbor, and he threw down a stalk of marijuana on my desk. And I said, what are you going to do about it? My neighbor's got a patch of it, big as an acre. It was tall as this roof. And we went out there and got it and hauled it all into the jail office down here with pickup trucks and stacked it in there because we didn't know what else to do with it. Arrested the people that did it. One of my best friends, and or he had been, and when I was a teenager, and all of a sudden people saw that we was doing something about it, so they started calling. We started in 1978 and 79. I don't know how many acres of marijuana we were cut down in this county that nobody even knew was here. And they've been doing it for a long time, or a few years. And the patches finally got so big, we just had to disc them down with a farm-all tractor the best you could. You couldn't cut it and haul it to the jailer's office. Then after that, I think it started going down. You found little bitty patches. But yeah, and I heard rumors of dog fights in Bullitt County, but and even possibly one occasionally in this county. And we tried to catch them, we never could find them doing it. But we watched the place where it was supposed to be. There was no activity, but until the Williams girl disappeared, I had no idea how many people had those bulldogs and were fighting them. They put them on them barrels, you know, drive a stake in the ground, put a big log chain around their neck, and some of the people involved in that crime investigation had 10, 12 of those dogs out behind their houses. You'd be riding by but never even see them. And there they were. But most of that was going on somewhere else. Yeah, oh yeah, there's no doubt about that. Some of the laws, like one fella, one example was they had a jury trial down here, and I could hear the jurors talking through the room. And you're not supposed to tell what they say, but they're saying, let's find this guy guilty. They didn't want to let the police down, not find him guilty. We'll find him guilty and recommend probation. So that's what they did. And they come in there, and the circuit judge says, well, since it recommend probation, I almost guarantee you that's what's going to happen. The very next day, they tried a guy, and he had been in prison twice, but he was not a real bad guy. But after they had passed a law in the meantime, if you've been in prison twice and you get convicted the third time, it's automatic. You serve your sentence, no probation. So they tried this guy, and they can't tell him about the record. They don't know he's got this record of been in prison for minor stuff twice, 2 felonies, and I hear him through the door. They say, well, some of the same ones are on this jury. And they said, well, we were in here yesterday, and I know he's just a minor theft of him out eating grocery store. He was with about 15, 20 people, went in a grocery and got a carton of cigarettes and a Coke. That's all. And I wasn't even sure he got any of that. But some of them, that's what was stole, a Coke and cigarettes, and not very many of them. And they got him on trial for this, and they say, well, let's find him guilty and recommend probation, because we did that yesterday, and the judge said he'd do it. Well, they come back in the courtroom, and they said, we're going to find him guilty and send him 10 years and recommend probation. Well, the judge said, I was afraid y'all was going to do that because what happened here yesterday. He said he's been convicted twice. He's got to serve every day of that 10 years for being with a bunch of other people that stole a Coke and a pack of cigarettes. So yeah, I never did agree with it. I went myself and tried to talk to the judge to get him to cut it down. He said, I can't. It's law. You know, sometimes you get caught in those situations. I didn't always like everything I had to do, but you know, what do you do if you swear to uphold the law? If you don't do it, you don't need to be, the law. That's what I thought. I'm not sure where they keep now. Back in those days, when I first went in, the little jail was open down here. I had a key to it, and the jailer gave me a key to it, and I caught a guy running around in the street one day about to get run over. Took him back there and locked it up. She took my key. She said, you can't put people in there just to keep them getting run over. You got to charge them with a crime. She said, I got to have your key, Larry. So I gave it to her. But the jail was open. There was a fight one night we arrested 3 guys from Bullitt County at the fair, and this was about 79. I was a sheriff, so it might have been 82, 83, and put him in jail. And at the same time, the state police arrested a guy down here, and he was real loud in the jailer's office, and they went in there and they beat him up, and he filed a suit against the county, and they closed the jail. So then we took him to Shelbyville and Bullitt County, some to Nelson. Louisville Outlaws? Well, not really. A family, the Jewell family and Coopers, they had a big country music festival in the county one year, and they spent a lot of money. They had Silver Eagles coming. They told me they'd give Jerry Lee Lewis $20,000 to play for an hour, and they had the biggest acts in country music. I mean, they went all out, and the Louisville Outlaws came to that on their motorcycles. Camped back in the back. That they never caused any problem that I knew of. That's the only time I knew about the Louisville Outlaws. But I will tell you, we had the best. As I used to tell our boys, I said, we got the best bunch of outlaws. You got to have outlaws. Every place has got to have them, but y'all are the best bunch of outlaws they got anywhere. Well, I don't. Right now, none of them really seem to stand out too much. That was the hardest case that we had, and that was a terrible thing, you know. That young girl, 19 years old, from Bullitt County, come down. All we found of her was a bunch of bloody clothes, torn to shreds, looked like animals that tore her shreds up. Cut her bra straps off, panties off with a knife or scissors or something. And we'd like to never found her. And she was finally found about a year and 4 months after we found her on my anniversary. And I was in Louisville out eating, and the boy stumbled up on her skull on a creek bank, and he went to kick it. He thought it was an animal skull, and he saw the braces on her teeth, and he knew that was well publicized what he had, and he ran home. And but the rest of it in the book, I don't know, say too much about that. It was, as far as my part, I really felt ill-equipped to work on a case like that, you know, because it's the only really murder case that we had here, and we made some mistakes on it. The things we should have done that we didn't, probably things we did that we shouldn't have done. You get, and it really gets into your skin when something like that happens on your watch, and you feel like, you know, you need to get something done on it for the public and for her, you know. But anyway, it's I had one case one time I'd like to talk about if I can find anybody to listen, but I was working a wreck out on 55. It might be in the book, I don't know. And I hadn't been in office very long. I was a deputy sheriff, and this guy pulls up in this old dark blue Cadillac, and he's drunk, and he wants to get through. He said, "I got to get through here, officer." And I said, "Well, pull over right there just a minute. I'll be right with you." Well, I finished writing up the accident and goes over to him. I said, "Mister, I can't let you drive off in the shape you're in." He said, "Well, what we got to do?" I said, "I got to take you to town. I'm sorry." So I gets him out and takes him to town. And on the way to town, he tells me he's one of Al Capone's men. He said he worked for Al Capone as a guard at his Florida mansion for 2 months and got a check with his signature on it. He said, "I wish I'd have kept it." And I said, "Well, I put him in the jailer's office." He never went in jail. And the circuit judge called. And the circuit judge didn't call about those kind of things. And he told the jailer to let him sign out. And about a few minutes later, a big black sedan pulled around behind the courthouse. He walks out, signs out, and gets in it. We never saw him again. I don't think he ever come back to court. But I always said if Al Capone had that kind of pull in 1978, think what he had in 1928. This is a footnote. I think when I was a county judge, probably was when I had the most success. For 89, I went in 90 and went out in 99, January 99. You know, I don't know how you talk about something like that without bragging about it, but we had a lot of success the first 5 years. I thought we did. You know, but we built all these buildings out here where the recycle center is, the ambulance building and all that. And bought that 4 acres back there, put those 4 acres in and put those buildings in there, all except the one where the what is it? Well, I can't think who it was now. J.M. Shelley and them. They were agents, county agent, and all of them. We sold them that ground, or leased it to them. I actually gave it to them. And they built that building on it, and then they moved out to the other side of the cemetery, and the one they got out there now. And we had plans drawn up for the health department, and it was in the works when I left office. And I don't know, a lot of just keeping things going, you know, keeping the ambulance rolling. I always said when you go in that office and you figure out how you're going to get factories built out here in these bottoms all along the new road, how you're going to get all these jobs in here. When you come in and you leave that night wondering how in the world am I going to keep an ambulance rolling to people as you look over the books and everything. But it was an interesting job, and we didn't do anything really big, but we had a few little things done. And the guys that followed me, we bought that ball field out there while I was county judge, and David Jenkins followed me up, and they did a good job of building those ball fields, and the ones in Waterford. We had that under lease when I left office too, and they did a real good job of building. So together, you know, it was a pretty good service for the people there. But I didn't accomplish a whole lot of big stuff. Well, yeah, I was married for 4 months back when I was in college. It didn't last very long. And then I went back, and a girl I had dated before that, we got together, and we started dating again when I was in the Army and come in. And then we got married in March of 1969, the 18th, and 3 days later I left for Vietnam, was gone for a year. And you know, it's a wonder it lasted. I come back, she was waiting, and she'd saved all the money I sent her, you know, and we had 3 kids. They all turned out real good. And then she re-retired, went to Florida 8 winters, and come back up here in the summertime. Had a nice little trailer down there and a boat on a fishing lake. Had a good time. And then she passed away three and a half years ago. And then I was single for a year, and then I married Tammy Howell, and she had lost her husband 7 years prior to that. We've been married 3 years now. Yeah. They were all 3 good women. I give them that. Growing up in a high school and running around and with a band and playing, and it's hard to say. The family out on the farm, all growing up together, and then one by one they leave home, you know, and then sometimes sooner or later comes your time to leave home. But I can't think of anything that surpasses, besides the kids being born and running down an old dirt road as a child, where that blacktop road is in Hillsborough subdivision. It's hard to pass that, hard to beat that. And it was all good. It was all good. Well, trust the Lord, take what comes to you, and be kind to one another. Be nice and be good to yourself. I haven't always done that. But, you know, that'd be my advice. That's all I know to tell them. And you'll make it through. It'll all be working and good. And look for the good things. I don't know, you know. That's kind of out of my line right there. But I've seen a lot of changes in the county. I'm 75 years old in September, and like I said, I moved here when I was 7, so that's 68 years, I guess. And from the time the dairy farmers all went out of business to the tobacco farmers went out of business, till the farmers started selling their lands for the subdivisions. And I was in the judge's office when most of the subdivisions you see out here now were zoned and set aside for zoning and houses built on them. Then when I left, I went back, and my brother had a plumbing wiring business, so we plumbed and wired a lot of houses. But I've seen it's changed a lot. I guess it'll keep changing, but it's a lot of good people moved in. It was good people here, and there's a lot of good people moved in here. And it's still, to me, just about like it always was. Just a nice place to live.
The Army came to Taylorsville in 1970. We met 'em at the high school gym one hot July night. A colonel stood upon the stage and told a hated crowd we'd have to leave our bottom land to make way for the dam. And so they dammed the old Salt River where the peaceful waters roll. They raised the water 80 feet where our cornfields growed. I lost 40 acres of Salt River bottom ground. What used to be my childhood home is 65 feet down. 65 feet down, muddy water all around. What used to be my childhood home is 65 feet down. The sun no longer shines down there like it did back then, when I played round the old home place with my childhood friends.